All right, we'll go ahead and move forward. Um, this is just going to be a quick 30-minute session, so we're going to try to stick with our time. I know people have other obligations that they're going to have to try to squeeze into after the meeting today. This is very relaxed, just it's going to be a quick introduction to NSPIRE. So this is going to be a very broad overview. Um, My name is Monica. For those that don't know me, I'm the Managing Director of Multifamily Compliance Inspections. I'll be walking you through this overview of the inspection standards, and this is just a mini overview. It's not going to be all encompassing, but what we'll talk about is what's changing, why the change is happening, what your organization needs to know to prepare, and we're going to have some time for questions at the end of the presentation. But throughout the presentation, if at any time you have questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. The inspection team is on here and they're available to answer questions as we move through the process. And once we get to the end, if we still have questions left that we don't get to, we will reach out to you to get answers to you after the presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So our objectives today are to get a clear understanding of 4 different key objectives. You're going to get a clear understanding of NSPIRE, its purpose, its structure, and we're going to discuss why HUD has modernized the inspection model and highlight some of those changes or major changes that you're going to see compared to the prior inspection standards. And finally, we'll talk to you about how you can best prepare for implementation and compliance. So what is NSPIRE? The National Standards for Physical Inspection of Real Estate, for those that don't know the long name, we affectionately call it NSPIRE, shifts the inspection focus towards health and safety defects, structural concerns, and functionality. It standardizes what inspections should or inspectors should be observing and how the deficiencies should be evaluated. HUD published the final standards in June of 2023, and we've been advised that we should expect updates approximately every 3 years. And in fact, there's been teasers that a standards update is actually anticipated soon. So why HUD created NSPIRE? HUD created NSPIRE to bring all HUD-assisted housing programs under a single cohesive set of standards. Aligning those standards helps reduce confusion. The previous inspection model had areas of subjectivity, and some requirements were very outdated. It had been quite some time since the inspection standards had been updated. NSPIRE puts resident living spaces first. It removes those gray areas by replacing subjective judgment calls with more fact-based criteria, which is going to mean clearer inspections for the inspectors, landlords, and residents. So if I come out and do an inspection and another inspector falls behind, ideally there should be very little variances between the inspections. With NSPIRE, there are 3 inspectable areas. One of the easiest ways to understand NSPIRE structure is the rule of thumb, wherein am I when I observe this deficiency? Every deficiency falls into one of 3 inspectable areas. You have your unit, which is anything inside of the resident's living space. You have your inside area, which is common areas or shared building components, or you have your outside area, which would be the grounds or the exterior structures or the exterior of the home. This categorization ensures consistency in your inspections. So each deficiency would be recorded in the appropriate area, no matter what type of housing structure it may be. So with NSPIRE, we now have some new health and safety determinations. The safety determination levels and correction timeframes do vary slightly. You'll have life-threatening issues, which all life-threatening issues must be corrected within 24 hours. There's no extension option for 24-hour deficiencies. Severe issues will require correction within 24 hours or 30 days for the voucher programs. So you'll denote that some of these deficiencies will have two separate timeframes for correction. It's going to depend on whether that unit you're looking at falls under the voucher program, or maybe it's a compliance multifamily inspection. Since we're focused on vouchers today, we'll kind of keep that in mind moving forward. Anything that is a moderate deficiency will be 30 days. And then low issues or low deficiencies have a 60-day correction time frame, or it's just a pass for vouchers. So you think about low deficiencies being kind of a pass with comments. It's alerting the landlord that there's a problem here that could, cause an issue down the road. They may want to look at it. These timeframes reflect HUD's emphasis on health and safety and ensure that those critical hazards are addressed immediately for the safety of the family. So some examples of the deficiencies. An example of a life-threatening deficiency would be an exposed electrical conductor. Severe deficiency would be if there's only one shower and it's inoperable. And a moderate deficiency, a light fixture maybe is inoperable. And then a low deficiency, a missing sink stopper. And you can see how a low deficiency, like a missing sink stopper, is not vital to housing that family or to keeping them safe. So there are benefits to NSPIRE. There's several key benefits. The standards are transparent and publicly available. This allows residents and owners to know exactly what to expect. NSPIRE promotes preventative maintenance. This improves the overall housing quality. And by identifying any life-threatening risks early, NSPIRE provides a proactive protection for both landlords and tenants. The idea is, being proactive, you're going to head any issues off before they become a problem or before someone gets hurt. So NSPIRE versus HQS. Let's compare NSPIRE to HQS. Since many of you have conducted voucher inspections, what's changed? Firstly, the inspection standards themselves have changed. They're much more detailed and objective. Site and neighborhood requirements are removed. So no longer are we looking at graffiti on the outside of a building. Smoke and carbon monoxide alarm rules are much stricter. Electrical system requirements are much clearer. And mandatory life-threatening items will now apply to all HUD housing. And then what's going to stay the same is policies such as the inspection type. If it's an annual inspection, it's still going to be an annual or an initial. And then the frequency, that will stay the same. If you do your inspections, once a year, every other year, those periodic inspections will remain the same. Policies and frequency will not change at all. Who's going to perform the inspection? That's not going to be anything that will need to change. And voucher inspections will remain pass or fail. Enforcement of the HAP contract and those family obligations continue unchanged. With NSPIRE, HUD has highlighted 8 critical focus areas covering everything from fire safety and mold to structural integrity and habitability. These categories represent the highest risk areas affecting residents' health and building stability. This structure helps both the inspectors and the landlords prioritize which issues matter the most when you're out doing inspections. By keeping these focus areas in mind, you can see fire safety, water safety, mold and moisture, carbon monoxide infestation, lead-based paint, structural integrity and habitability. By keeping those things in mind when you're looking at a unit or a tenant is possibly looking at a potential unit, it helps to identify some of the more serious issues right away. So the full standards for NSPIRE are now available online. You can view them at any time going to the website, to the Hub website. The resource, it's essential for training new staff, verifying any deficiency details and preparing landlords. And you'll note you have an area for each standard listed. For instance, you've got address and signage, um, bathtub and shower standards. And if you come across from the standard, you can see that it will tell you which areas are affected by that deficiency, whether it's unit, inside, or outside. Each inspection standard will now include more detailed information for each deficiency. It's important to review each section thoroughly, especially the inspection process. You'll note that the inspection process provides guidance that ensures inspectors apply the standards accurately and consistently. And we really want to thoroughly look at this because when you come down to the bottom, and you can see the bottom arrow points out more information. That more information section oftentimes will offer additional directives to ensure that a deficiency is accurately recorded. For instance, with the standard that we have pictured, you can see that maybe we're inspecting a GFCI outlet. And if we come down to the bottom and we read more information, it tells us that if the test or reset button is inoperable, if that button's missing and it results in an exposed electrical conductor, then you have to evaluate it under the electrical conductor outlet and switch standard. So it will direct you to another standard if perhaps there's a more serious issue going on. So now with HUD, we no longer have an inspection book for NSPIRE like we did before. What they have released is an NSPIRE HCV PBV checklist. It's available on HUD's website. They have it in both printable form, PDF form, where you can fill it out, typing your information. And with NSPIRE, the deficiencies are not organized by room or location. Instead, each standard is listed. So you've got 7 pages. You've got each standard listed, kind of an abbreviated version. And then you have your columns, unit, inside, and outside, for you to check where the deficiency is present. And then there's a small comment box for you to add additional details. Training staff on this change is going to be really essential because it's so different trying to navigate the checklist. It's hard to change that mindset on moving room to room. The checklist is alphabetized. It's like I said, an abbreviated version of all the standards. And this is just a small snapshot of one of the pages. So when it comes to implementing NSPIRE, timing is key. Every inspection conducted after your implementation date must follow the NSPIRE inspection standards. Software will have to be updated ahead of time to ensure inspection modules align with the new criteria. So if you know what your implementation date is going to be, you want to go ahead and get the ball rolling with any software providers to ensure that they're going to have inspection modules available that's going to support your needs. All staff have to be thoroughly trained before day one. And landlords and families need to receive clear communication about what to inspect. I think communication is key. especially with your landlords and tenants, with the changes. And then most importantly, your PHA should have plans on how to handle those life-threatening deficiencies that require correction within 24-hour window. I know once we implemented NSPIRE, that was a big hurdle for us, was the enormous amount of 24-hour violations. It's such a larger list now with NSPIRE, and you really need to, I can't stress enough to have a plan on how you're going to handle those violations. Are you going to have to go out and do a physical recheck the next day? How your PHA is going to set that up. So it's going to feel like it's going to be a significant change across the board. But it does closely align with building code. So I would encourage landlord participation. I know most folks are resistant to change. I, m- Landlords do benefit from having safer units. There's reduced liability. This can result in increased property value. Because NSPIRE is objective and fact-based, it also helps to ensure that inspections are much more fair and consistent. And it gives that landlord that predictability for the inspection. If a landlord can take a inspection checklist, or if you provide them some sort of material to give them a heads up on this is what's changing with NSPIRE, oftentimes it will make that inspection process smoother, and a landlord is not shocked whenever we come out to do an NSPIRE inspection and they realize how much the change is. The mandatory compliance deadline is February 1st. I know that'll be here before you know it, so I would encourage you not to wait until last minute. All PHAs that are administering housing choice voucher, project-based voucher, or mod rehab programs must implement NSPIRE by this date. PHAs also need to notify HUD of their implementation date. So, or if you've already transitioned or plan to transition, you'll want to notify HUD of those changes. We did already move forward with NSPIRE here at KHC. We're approaching the 2-year mark since we've moved forward. And we've had some hurdles, but it's not been too terrible. So at this time, though, I want to open the floor up for some questions. I know it's not new to everyone with the NSPIRE stuff. If you've not heard about it, I'm not sure how you've avoided it. It's been going on for quite some time. Does anybody have any questions? And you can unmute yourself. Jim, are there any questions in the chat that maybe we could answer out loud?
There are. I think Melissa's answering one now, but one of the ones that was posed was about software. And of course, that's going to be what PHA that you're with. There's many different companies that will supply the software. It's just strictly, what your organization uses. Like KHC, we use the Yardi software for our inspections. Looks like another question is, who will be responsible for ensuring an employee is trained? That would be each organization would need to go through their own training process. KHC is offering on-site training where we can actually come out to your property and answer some of the questions you may have and actually physically walk through some of your PH-owned properties, your units, and help with some of that. But that's going to be geared probably to your whatever your admin plan calls for certification for your inspectors.
Yeah. There's not a true certification out there per se. There are
Mm-hmm.
agencies that offer
Mm-hmm.
additional training. HUD also has an online training course.
Mm-hmm.
It's beneficial, especially someone new moving forward with Inspire. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's very eye-opening, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I would say, Jim, would you say that the biggest thing is just getting out there and doing the inspections once you start getting
Yeah.
familiar with those standards?
Yeah. And once your organization starts, though, like you've got a little bit of time before October 1st, not much time, but like we did at KHC when we knew it was coming, all of our inspectors, we try to work a little bit ahead.
Hmm.
Try to give yourself a bit of a cushion. If you were doing 8 to 10 a day to 15 a day, you may want to trickle down to doing 5 to 6 a day, and it just depends. Our inspectors, we travel, the blanket of the state of Kentucky. So if you're just covering like one town, of course you can probably do more, but you may
Hmm.
want to look at how many you schedule for those days to make sure you can get them all done. Daryl was questioning about the software and looks like he is with an agency outside of KHC. And he was asking about access to Yardi. When we talk about Yardi, that's a KHC internal software. That's not something that we push out to other tenant-based rental assistance programs across the state. So,
Yeah,
and he also,
that's a vendor that
yeah,
sells
yeah.
software.
And
Yeah.
I mentioned to him about that you can actually, I mean, HUD doesn't say that you can't use the paper checklist. There'll be a pain for you, but if you don't have software up and going by then, you're going to have to use the paper. And looks like Daryl asked about if a form has to be used for each room you enter, and it does not. It is so different than the 52580, the HQS booklet, to where you went to a room and found the violation. Now you're going to be in that room, and when you see a violation, you're going to look for the category to put it. And in your comments, you'll note the in the
The
comments you'll
room.
note the location or the room where that it's
Yeah.
at. Did you see any other on there, Melissa, that needed answered?
It looks like Jamie McKinney asked, would the Inspire V apply to Hopla?
That's what
Um,
I was just getting ready to read.
yeah, Jamie, I believe Hopla had their own set of Inspire standards, if I'm not mistaken. The COCs and the ESG programs will be moving towards Inspire. Um, but I want to think Hopla has their own set of standards. I will go ahead and do some research and I can email that to you. But I'm pretty sure that those were released back in February. And it's my understanding that at this time, HUD has not provided any sort of waiver for the COCs or the ESG programs. Those programs are supposed to move forward October 1, whereas the voucher programs, HCV and PBV and Mod Rehab, will move forward February 1, if not earlier, depending on, what the PHA chooses.
Looks like there's another good question on here from Mary Cottle. It says, what is the difference between Inspire V and the Inspire HCV PVV? As far as inspection goes, they're one and the same. When you see the V after Inspire, that's for the voucher program. And Inspire, not to confuse you, but Inspire is also going to entail REAC inspections. If your properties experience those, they're going to use a little different model than the Inspire. Really, the only difference is going to be the time frames on some of the items that fail, and then there's a few items that will pass with the voucher program that won't pass under a normal Inspire inspection. And as far as what your shelter would use to inspect by, Monica, you may want to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking everyone is going to the Inspire protocol, correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So unless you're unless your RRH funding is not tied to the federal government or local state government, if it's something privately funded, I guess is what I'm getting at. You can use whatever you want, but the reason for Inspire is to do away with all the other. At one time, you had habitability inspections, you had HQS inspections, UPCS inspections. Melissa could probably chime in a few more, but
So there's several, huh?
But
Go
HUD's
ahead.
initiative is to go with that one blanket. But when they went with the one blanket, they looked and saw that some things won't fit for the voucher program that would fit for a multifamily property, say under a REAC inspection or compliance review. I hope that's clear. You guys understand what I'm trying to say.
So it's
Yeah.
the old UPCS is what the other NSPIRE is. So if you're familiar with the UPCS,
Mhm.
that's what the other NSPIRE is.
Right.
And although
Okay.
the standards, that's the thing, the standards are the same for both. It's just those correction timeframes that will
Yes.
be slightly different. There's some things that are a little more relaxed as far as correction for the voucher program. Like the sink stopper, for instance, it wouldn't pass NSPIRE, but it would pass for NSPIRE-V or the voucher program.
Or you got 24-hour violations that are different with actual NSPIRE than what it is for NSPIRE-V.
Yes.
So there's another question on here, Monica. It says, is there something to send to landlords to prepare them for the new inspection standards?
It's up to the agency to prepare the documentation. I would encourage you to go to HUD's website. They do have some very few resources on there, but there is a landlord page that you may find helpful when creating something of your own to maybe alert landlords. It could be a starting point. And it's kind of up to you to decide how much are you wanting to tell landlords. Do you want to overwhelm them with everything, or you want to pick the big items that you really need to focus on? Like for us, with the experience, I would say the most frequent failed deficiencies, the smoke detector standards, the GFCIs is another one that's been a big deficiency for us. Letting them know those high level ones that we see all the time um, would probably be helpful for landlords. Jim, Melissa, are there any others you can think of right off that maybe you see real frequently that?
The dryer vent, like you said,
Yeah.
the GFCIs, because people don't realize about the washers.
Water heater relief lines are probably the biggest misunderstanding with the new NSPIRE.
Oh yeah, definitely the water heaters, yes, where they need to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like we have another question that we missed, maybe. See if I can find it here. Oh, well, I don't see it now. Maybe they removed their question.
Okay.
Oh, I see it here. I found it. Looks like Carrie Simpson asked, did you answer her, Melissa, about the iPad?
No,
Okay.
I didn't see it on here.
She says, we will be using an iPad for the inspections. Is there an app to download? Actually, at this time, there's not. How long's HUD been talking about an app, Monica? Probably.
They had talked about it for a while, but I think the last communication I heard is that that's stopped. They're not going to be doing an app.
Okay, because
Um,
like in the olden days when we were under UPCS and we would do our own REAC inspections, the people that were certified with those with KHC, a lot of the properties they did have an app that HUD provided for them to use themselves, but looks like there's not going to be one for the iPad. So
I wouldn't hold out for it or wait for
right,
it. I would
right.
make a plan to move forward without it.
But what you may be able to do with the iPad is if you were able to work your checklist into PDF format to where you could type in it as you go, and maybe save you some handwriting there. But it is going to be a pain because how many pages is it, Monica? Is it like
It's 7 pages.
7 pages now?
Yep.
Yeah, 7
A lot.
pages.
But it's easier to use. It's much easier to use than the old 52580, the old HQS inspection checkbook. It's their checklist. It's much easier to use, more user friendly, I think.
Yeah, it's just once you learn it, there will be
Exactly.
the frustration of learning it.
Right.
Yeah. Sherry Jennings, we had the same concern about landlords dropping out, no longer wanting to participate with the program. Just like you thought, thinking, overwhelmed by all the changes. It's not been as bad as what we had anticipated. Once a landlord stops to think about it, we've had some folks who have fussed about, smoke alarms and things. But I think it goes back to maybe getting that information out to them in advance. I know for us, so you can't do extensions on the 24-hour deficiencies, but I have been able to work with landlords on some of the other deficiencies to give them additional time because, it's it is an expense. Especially if you have multiple properties and you get several units that are inspected at one time, it may be a little more difficult to get the repairs done within the 30-day window. So I would encourage you to maybe pose it to work with landlords, as best you can, where you can.
But what you can also do, Sherry, is when you're meeting with your landlords, let them know that some of the stuff under HQS went away. That maybe you having new stuff come on with Inspire, but there's some stuff that went away. That just like Monica said, the site neighborhood conditions. A lot of places that would render properties, unsuitable to be housed. For folks to be housed under our programs, but so you kind of have to sell it, I guess is what I'm getting at. Let them know you're not the bad guy, blame it on HUD, and that you're going to work together to, like Monica said, with extensions or whatever, as long as they're proactive in making the repairs.
We have another question. Nick Murphy, will you be sharing the slides for this presentation?
Yes, I can send those out, Nick. That'll be fine. I'll share those. We are also recording this, and I believe that our communications team will place it online on our website as well. Do we have any other questions?
If we've missed somebody, type your question again. We don't want to overlook somebody.
Well, we're at our 30-minute mark. We can go ahead and wrap this up, and we will have another session. We're going to start digging into more of the deficiencies versus this overview piece, because I know this is kind of broad. So our next session will be focused on outside. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out. You have our contact information there on the screen. If you have questions, even that you would like to see included in future presentations or information, please feel free to shoot that information to us over in an email, and we'll see what we can do. Thanks, everyone.